This is another, um, I would say, Singularity Syndicate episode, but maybe we're thinking of doing something more casual with Noel and something more like probably long term. I'm putting you on the spot right now, Noel. So, welcome everyone. So originally we have an event or a kind of a conversation about the limitless potential of GPTs and AI assistants and the what's the implications of the GPT store in the future. But then all of the last weekend there was the OpenAI saga and all the corporate mania that has been going on, and Noel and I were like following the news pretty intensely, and we thought that why not we also add this to our episode today. So yeah, welcome everyone for this journey on this podcast. And I'm joined here by Noel. I'm sure that you've been seeing Noel on my channel for a long time. He's an old friend of mine, and we've been connecting all the time. And I'm very happy that he's with me today and multiple times on this channel. So welcome, Noel.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
we hear you
having a little
perfectly.
bit of trouble early on. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, man. This Sam Altman thing is it just blew my mind, man. I don't know if there's any fans out there of there's a show called Billions, which is like fake hedge fund or asset manager people that trade in the corporate world, and there's a lot of like espionage and corporate, like they'll pay someone to get information from the inside, and then they make their trades based on that. It's a lot of that fantasy, right? And there's another show called Succession, which for the people watching right now, again, it's another show about corporate like conglomerates and their drama, and it is juicy drama. So here you've got OpenAI, who is quite possibly the Yahoo or the Google of our time, of this generation's time. We're already old, but you know what I mean. They're like a new. They're going to become a household name, right? Just like we say Google it or Uber this, or you know email the person. It's going to become another one of those internet things, right? And for their CEO to get fired a year in of offering this as a retail product, like holy shit, man, crazy. What are your
yeah,
thoughts?
that's
What do you think?
insane. Yeah, I mean, it is. First of all, you're right. I still nowadays I always say, oh, Chat GPT. Like it's kind of sometimes now
Yeah.
we're getting used. I mean, the name is horrible. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if I mean, I'm a marketing person by default, so
Hmm.
thinking about the reason, like, how would you name a product, a helper, a chatbot that is supposed to be helping people and be friendly for two people, and how
Right.
would you name
Right.
Chat GPT?
Yeah.
Like
It's
generative
it certainly
pre-trained
wouldn't be that.
transformer.
That is like the worst name anybody could have ever come up with. But it might become so popular that 10 years from now we're gonna think that's like the best word for what we're trying to discuss. We might be like, yeah, just chat
Yeah.
GPT it. You know, I mean, Google. Think of the word Google. When had you heard the word Google before Google was a thing? Like,
Yeah.
it's a word. I believe it's a mathematical term. That's an insane amount of zeros, but I don't know 100%. But I never used the word Google or Yahoo. I don't even know if Yahoo is an actual English word. So ChatGPT is going to be part of
Right.
our lexicon going forward, I
But
guess.
like when it comes to branding, at least have a one word. Like at
Right, and
least, right? So
and
because
then and then
because Chat
they keep adding
GPT
the number to it at the end. ChatGPT 5. Oh, it's a little warm in here.
But I
Yeah.
heard I heard once Sam Altman talking about why they intentionally named it ChatGPT, and they don't want to have like a personal name, like for example Claude or.
Really?
And this is because, yeah, he said that it's intentional because they don't want to anthropomorphize. I'm always struggling with that word, but they don't want to make it
Mm,
sound like as if like a something that you would build a relationship with as a
right.
person. So they were afraid because remember they were the first one, so they didn't want the public's opinion to be against them. So they want to make sure that everything. And this is one of the explanation. I don't know if this is a hiccup and he's trying to cover up for that hiccup, but the name is very interesting, to say the least.
Right, right. And it's yeah, it's definitely going to be a product that my fear, and I think with what happened now recently, my fear is that Chat GPT and OpenAI becomes the new uh I'm trying to think of a brand. There has to be a brand of something that you remember opened the doors into that industry, and then that brand disappeared. Like, let's just say for the sake of argument, IBM. Okay, IBM is a brand that is like synonymous with advancement, power. It's a corporation that's massive. They used to have, when it came to AI, IBM was the real powerhouse. They had I think they had a thing called Watson. I want to say like a artificial. They have like, I think they have a couple of others. I don't remember the names now, but uh, was Deep Blue one of theirs, or was that Google's? The one that had the
Deep,
chess match against like Gary
oh,
Kasparov or whatever, whoever it was.
yeah, no, that's another company, Deep Blue,
Might
and
be
Deep
Google.
Mind,
Yeah,
and
DeepMind
these
might be
are.
Google. But
Yeah, so
anyway,
DeepMind was purchased by Google. It's a UK company. I'm actually reading the book of one of its founder, and the book
really?
is called The
Okay.
Coming Wave. And this guy, yeah, he was one of the founders, and he created his own company now. I think it's called Inflection AI or something, and he's doing an AI model as well that is
Hmm.
being more efficient than ChatGPT and GPT-4. He says that his model could achieve pretty much the same performance with so much less compute, right? So
Wow.
it's getting more efficient. But yeah, so um what was your point? Sorry.
So I'm sorry. My point was that what could happen to OpenAI is what's happened to IBM. IBM is now a dinosaur company. That's not the first name you think of when
Right.
you think of AI, when you think of advancement.
Yeah.
I didn't even know IBM still existed, to be honest with you, until I went to the Weather Channel, like weather.com, and it says an IBM company, and I was like, oh shit, those guys still exist. So
Oh no, man. IBM is
yeah.
still big even in the AI
Oh
space, especially they're providing the infrastructure. So
yeah.
remember there's like Microsoft, there's Google, and there's IBM. And these are like basically the powerhouse for the infrastructure side of things, like where you can
Right.
like Azure. You've heard of Microsoft Azure, for example. This is like
Right.
the infrastructure for these models to exist. I mean, I'm not that technical, but they call them environments, like they're like developers environment. It's kind
Yeah.
of a cloud application, and that perform all the processing and the data
Yeah, in
management
a
on the back.
contained ecosystem that's proprietary to that company.
Yes,
Um,
and they can sell access to.
yeah, but I think that IBM didn't play their cards right. They should be a more
Yeah,
retail facing corporation, and they're not. And yeah, maybe they're still around and maybe they're making money, and but it's not something where if I was investing, I wouldn't tell people make sure you buy Tesla, make sure you buy Google stock, make sure you buy Microsoft and IBM. Like I wouldn't, I just don't think
right,
of them that way, right? And so this
right,
drama with Sam Altman kind of reminds me of the possibility of that. Like I think, if they don't play their cards right, thankfully they have Microsoft backing. I think Microsoft probably gave them about 10 billion or so. Thankfully they have the backing to not fall apart right now. But if they didn't have
yeah,
that, I think this is a company that could very easily dissolve, honestly,
absolutely,
because there's so much
absolutely,
competition, right?
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna first of all recognize Mary Ann
Marianne
Schultz.
Schultz. Hello.
Yes.
Hi.
So Mary Ann has been like a follower of the Singularity Syndicate community, and me and her like had conversations in comments and stuff. And I've always wanted her input, and I always appreciate her contribution to the channel and to me specifically. Um, so she says Succession was an outstanding drama, well done, not one redeeming quality across the dozen characters at
Hmm.
all.
Right.
Um, yeah.
They're all assholes. they're all jerks. They're all if for anybody that's watched that show, you know what I'm talking about. They're very unlikable characters. All they care about is money. But that's the whole point of the show is greed, corporate greed.
Yeah.
So
Although,
yeah.
so let's start with this saga first, and then we can go to the GPTs and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah,
So
man.
let's bring back, I think we are kind of late discussing it. I'm sure that a lot of people on YouTube were following like minute by minute and hour by hour, and we're kind of right
Yeah.
now looking at the thing as it unfolded. And I don't know, it's not fully done yet, in my opinion. I think it's temporarily hold on the craziness, but it's still an active situation in my head, because I don't think
Oh
they
yeah.
have solved it permanently. So what happened, to bring it down to the audience, you've got OpenAI, the founders or the creators of ChatGPT, a new company in Silicon Valley that took the world by storm, and it's the fastest growing company in the world, the most valuable company in the world. It was valued at around $900 billion. It's like almost as valuable as Apple. So
Yeah.
you're
Wow.
talking about a company that went from 0 to 1,000 in almost no time. It's just 1 year, man, and it's like made all of that influence on the world and make people addicted to ChatGPT, and really showed the world what AI can do. So this is an amazing company, and in my head they were like, they were set to overcome Google at some point. Now, the guy which I really love, I love Sam Altman. He's very charismatic, he's very humble, he's very intellectual. So
Hmm.
he's the guy who led this company to the glory. And in the middle of
Right.
all of that, in the middle of all of this amazing, like after having the dev day where they introduced the new wave of products that's gonna even revolutionize the industry even further, in the middle of all of this, the board fires Sam Altman. Like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that
It's
before. Like a
insanity.
company
It's insanity.
at the height of success.
Right. Right. At least for so far, because there's more success to come if they keep doing things right. But yes, absolutely, absolutely, man. This is like their. It's like cutting Michael Jordan from the Chicago Bulls before the first championship. Like, are you insane? Like, don't you know? Um, I think one of the things, though, and one of the things that I would like to touch on in this episode actually is, why are we so afraid of AI? Like one of the things that came out was that researchers, and again, we're not experts, for anybody watching this, and we're not even up to speed. There might be news that came out today that we're not even aware of yet. So we're just having a conversation. All right, guys. So if we make a mistake, but some researchers had apparently voiced their concerns over a new system they have called Q Star, which is supposed to be a potentially an AI that could, I guess, develop consciousness or find ways of locking us out of the world's infrastructure. Right? It would be the end of humanity potentially if that AI decides to go rogue. Right? So when I read that, Naja, man, I think it was like I don't know, Wednesday night or something before Thanksgiving or Thursday night. I don't remember, but I remember reading the news and scrolling, and I saw, I think I sent you the screenshot uh, of like they discovered something that could endanger humanity. And dude, I got chills all over my body, man. Like, I actually got chills. But the bigger question is why? Why? What am I so afraid of? And so I think that's something that we need to relay to the audience. There's people in the audience potentially, or there's going to be people in the audience that watch this episode that they just have really busy lives, and they've heard of OpenAI, they've heard of ChatGPT, they've kind of heard, but they don't really, outside of watching the Terminator movie, they don't really understand how can Grammarly basically, how can Grammarly take over the world? That's essentially what people think ChatGPT is. It's just a writing tool, right? How can something that is meant to write for me and polish my writing become like this evil overlord? So I think that that's one thing that we should talk about.
Absolutely. And Speaking of Thanksgiving, I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving
That's
and
right.
happy returns of Thanksgiving over and over again, and wish the entire audience as well like a
Right.
always. I love Thanksgiving because of the name. I know that the whole history behind it is not so great, especially for the American culture, but
Right.
I would
Right.
say that the name is a good name for any culture. I think everybody should have at least a day of reflection and of gratitude to all the people around him and all the people who, loved ones and people who care for you and you care for them. I think it's a
Right.
great day to celebrate. So I wish you had a great one, and I also I'm very grateful for your friendship, Noel. So it means a lot to me. Second,
Likewise.
during that Thanksgiving dinner, um, we there was a we were at Sarah's. I don't know what I mentioned names, but we were at Sarah's
Yeah.
house, and her significant other's parents were there, and we were discussing. And of course, I'm the AI party, so I always have to bring AI to the conversation. I feel that people around me are sick and tired of me already, but I can't help it, like I have to bring AI into the mix. So what ended up happening is that I started talking about AI, and I was showing them like the chat GPT, the app, and how it talks to you and talks back. And of course, the first comment, it's scary. It's scary. It's all sorts of like fear. And I asked them exactly the question you asked right now. I was like, why are you afraid of it?
Right.
And they start talking about like the old lady start talking about how they're afraid to give a lot of information to the government, and they also
Yeah.
were talking about like cybersecurity scams. She said, I'm already getting a lot of spam,
That's a great
so I
point.
don't
Yeah.
want to. And then so yeah, so basically they're worried about privacy and information. Like we're giving a lot of information about ourselves to these AI and to the internet in general. And I think at some point this is like, for me, like I gave up on the protection part of my privacy. I feel that there's no way we can preserve privacy in this age, so I gave up on the whole concept. But some people still care about it, and this is one of their concerns. The other concerns is that when you don't understand how someone can be smart, the first reaction is that it's intimidating for you. You don't understand it. You start like avoid it. I
Hmm.
I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to acknowledge its existence, because by acknowledging its existence, I'm acknowledging that I don't understand it. So what do you
That
think about this?
Yeah, that happened to me with TikTok, man. Like I was like, I don't give a crap about that thing, and it came out, and I was like, who cares? And now everyone's using it, and I fell behind. Like I wouldn't even know. I mean, obviously I can create an account, but I wouldn't know how to start streaming on there or how to edit videos. Like, so it's one of those things where if you saw me as a grandparent, I'm in my 40s, but imagine, let's scale that up, that TikTok example, to me being 60 years old. Suddenly, I no longer understand a lot of things on my phone and why people are doing what they do. What is your motivation to put yourself out there every day and do dance videos or do what we're doing right now, right? Having a conversation. Like, so yes, I think that people fear these things because they don't, in my mind, in my opinion, they don't have the need for a solution, right? You and I might need a solution that enhances our productivity because we're professionals and we deal with different segments of life right now. Whereas somebody that's a little older, like I'm assuming the parents of this person you're discussing, they probably just see it as like, why would I need to go online and query a prompt thing that is just going to give me the same thing Wikipedia is going to give me with a little less research, right? They don't have a need for it yet. They will. I mean, if you asked me why did we need email back in the 90s, I would have probably said, I don't think we do. Who's going to remember to check Who's going to remember to open this giant computer and go into a website, put in a password just to see if somebody said something that said hi? Like it sounded ridiculous at the time. Now, how many
Yeah.
times a day do we refresh our phones to see if there's new messages from people on one of the 90,000 social media platforms that we use, right? So I think that's the first step, man. Is age automatically starts to separate us from newer and newer things, and we don't see a reason or a utility for those things. So that would be the
And
first
it's,
thing.
and it's
Yep.
also,
Go ahead.
man, I think, yeah, I'll come. I'll remind you to continue your point. But
I was
there's
done. I was
also,
done.
okay, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel that people fear. No, no, no. Let me rephrase this. Um, there's things that you don't know, and there are things that you don't know.
Okay. I
So
like
the
it.
thing, the
Yeah.
things that you don't know in this day and age are solved, which means
Yes.
that if I know that podcasting is good for me, then even if I know that I don't know how to do it, but I know that it's good for me, so the figuring out part becomes very easy, because you just go to ChatGPT now and tell
Right.
how to start a podcast start to finish. Give me step by step, and now you have it. But if I don't know if podcast exists, I wouldn't even know what to ask
That's a
from.
great example, man. That's a phenomenal example. So that you're
Yeah,
saying
and I
that's where old people are at. I mean, I'm not trying to. I'm old
not
myself,
necessarily
so
old.
but
Oh, a lot of people in our age, even younger, even teenagers, man, they're not really. I mean, teenagers would be a hard call because they're like built with this technology. But a lot of people around, they still haven't heard of ChatGPT or haven't tried it. I've had interviews with a lot of like professors here on the show, and a lot of them said, "Oh, I heard of it, but I haven't used it." And
right.
so they don't know the possibilities, they don't know the opportunity, they don't know what it can do. And you cannot know what it can do without actually being
Playing with it.
curious, being creative, and let me ask this.
Yeah, I
So
do you remember I forget, man. I know you and I are a few years apart, but there was a thing in the uh and by the way, Marianne said she agreed with our point earlier about how it's important to I think to keep up with these things and we don't. Um anyway, what was I going to say? Where was I going with this? We were talking about
yeah,
sorry, so
so I
Marianne's
I
point
actually,
and comment
me too.
and
I
I
actually
spaced
want to
out.
go. Yeah, so let's go back to the saga. What do you think? Because I think the saga is something to talk about a little bit.
So
So
here's what I think is
so
going on. Okay,
go ahead.
they you have people in that company that want to do good, and you have people in that company that want to make money, and they don't agree right now. The two sides don't agree. One side is saying if we go too far with this, if we're not careful, we can destroy humanity. And the other side is saying, hey, we have a company and we have investors and we have to make money, right? They don't work together. They can't. It's very hard. Like all this ESG, like let's just call it ESG. It's all BS, man. Like you can't slow down OpenAI's progress in exchange for helping humanity because China or India or Japan or some other country is going to come in with their own OpenAI and take the world by storm. Like like I said, TikTok is a great example of something that we didn't create in the US, and it is arguably the most popular social media platform on the planet and gained more new followers per day than any of those previous social media apps combined. Again, research it.
Yeah,
I might be off, but I remember reading an article about that and thinking, my God, man. So again, if you were in Sam Altman's shoes and you're sitting there going, man, I've got the golden goose. I'm gonna lay golden eggs for the rest of my life. But if I lay too many eggs, the world can end. But if I don't lay enough eggs, someone else's goose is going to be the one that makes more eggs than so
Yeah,
that's a very oversimplified, like, toddler
definitely.
version of what I think is happening, man. Like, I don't
Let me
know.
let me let me
Yeah.
explain exactly what you were talking about for the audience who probably haven't been following this. So, I mentioned that after the fact that the board, who's consisting of 6 people, three of them are three of them are kind of founders and employed by OpenAI, and 3 of them are not, right? And these are the board of the OpenAI, uh, the non-profit or non. It's the
Yeah,
is it non-profit? Yeah,
not for
it's
profit.
kind
Yep.
of like, yes, it's an NGO that is basically the mother company, or the mother NGO, the charter of the OpenAI, the commercial side
That's
of things.
correct.
So these are the decision
Yep.
makers, and they're like 6 people. That entire board is only 6 people. Microsoft, who owns 49% of the commercial side of the company, doesn't have a board seat, which is insane in the corporate world. And
Absolutely.
you're a
Yeah.
finance guy, and that's nuts. Some people with 5%, sometimes they will be
Right.
on the board. So all of a sudden, these guys decided to fire Sam Altman at the peak of the success of the company, because he wasn't candid, according to the
Mhm.
report. And then they will only be able to do so by having Elias Saskaber, which is the chief scientist of OpenAI, to sign that agreement. So they had the board, the three outsiders, plus Elias
Ah,
Saskaber, signed to fire Sam Altman and Greg,
Brockman or something like that.
the other,
Yeah. Yeah.
Greg Buckman. Yeah. So these 2 people, kind of, they are like very good, close to each other. And then there's
Sutskever.
Elias Escobar, who is the chief scientist. I think Elias Escobar and the two, Sam Altman and Greg, they didn't see eye to eye. It could be a ton of other things. One of them could be like, Elias Escobar, he believes that he's the main guy and he should receive more attention. It could
Yeah.
be it
Ego.
could be that he wants, yeah, that he sees that Sam Altman is taking all the limelight. He's being interviewed by all the big television and big media outlets. He did the testament in the Congress. He met the president of France and many others. He did a world
Right.
tour. He's, I mean, I think the most influential person. And Elias Escobar feels that he is kind of lagging behind, and he's not getting the attention he wants. It could be as simple as this, that he managed to work with the other 3 to sign that firing. This is one theory. Another theory says that there is one of the members of the board is he's the CEO, or he's the founder of Cura.com, which is a
Oh,
website
yeah.
that creates an AI called Poe. Which, by the way, I use that AI. It's pretty cool, because you can select which model you want to interact with, and you can build stuff similar to GPTs, which we'll talk about later. So Poe built its platform to basically become what GPT Store is intended to become. So there's clearly a conflict of interest
Oh,
here,
yeah.
where
Absolutely.
the guy is building a store in his private company other than OpenAI, and OpenAI, who is the board member, decided to create a GPT Store, which is in direct competition with his company. So there's
Right.
already 10. That's why I can easily see why he's opposing Sam Altman. He doesn't want this strategy to go forward. And then this is the second theory. And then the third theory is that the other member of the board, she is a scientist, and she doesn't. She's kind of on the Elias Escobar's party. She
Okay.
wants to move very slow. Just focus on the science, focus on the safety. She even had a paper released, which created a lot of tension with Sam Altman, because it's basically praising the competitor of OpenAI, Claude, and
Really?
criticizing the direction of OpenAI. So she
Wow.
released a scientific paper saying that, right? So you've got all of these things. So you've got like the competition with Poe, you've got this researcher, and you've got Elias Escobar's growing disdain or frustration that he's not getting the limelight and all the ego. So all of these people have signed to fire Sam Altman, but what they didn't know is that they kind of realized, like, oh my God, what did we do? We just dropped the valuation of the most valuable company on the planet from 900 billion to almost nothing, because days after, the employees, 700 and something, signed a paper saying that if all the board does not resign, we're quitting the company and we're going to Microsoft, which offered Sam Altman a position. So you've got this situation, and the board didn't know what to do. Like, they didn't expect what's going to happen. They think, oh, we fire Sam
Yeah.
Altman, we bring someone else who is aligned with our
They
vision,
thought they had all the
and life
power.
goes normal.
They thought they had
And
all
they
the
think that,
power to just do whatever they want. Yeah.
yeah. So this happened, and then they start seeing that, even they called for an all team on deck meeting, and nobody showed up. They gave, actually, the
Yeah,
employees of
I heard
OpenAI,
about that.
they put the middle finger emoji, bro. They put
Yeah,
the
I
middle
saw
finger
that. I love.
emoji for that meeting.
And
So then,
let's remind our viewers too. Don't forget, this all happened over Thanksgiving, guys. This is like people are with their families, are dealing with other issues, and it's over the holiday weekend that this is all happening. So it's even juicier that people would have to do that, come into the office, sign this letter, get to band together to save their CEO. I mean, it's a great drama, great drama.
absolutely. And I think after that, when they realized, even they tried to sell OpenAI they tried to merge with Claude, which is, by the way, Claude is another version, like, is another company that is built from people who started OpenAI. Like, one of them, I think he left OpenAI in the early days, and he started a company, Anthropic, and the
Anthropic,
Anthropic
that's it.
company.
I couldn't think of the name. I
Anthropic.
was like, I thought, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so they tried to merge with Claude, but Claude says no, thank you. We're
Yeah,
good.
we don't need you guys anymore. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
but then everything
yeah. So
fell on the board.
Microsoft offered him and a few other OpenAI employees a job. I think they actually hired them officially, or
Yeah,
extended the job offer, because there was articles out there that said that he has been hired officially. Like, the press release went out. Microsoft would not
right,
have allowed that if there wasn't an official statement. You know what I mean? Um,
definitely.
so, but think about this. Uh, if that had happened, OpenAI would have become the most, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm thinking of a good adjective here. I mean, it was like the juiciest piece of meat to anybody out there that's in the AI world. Amazon, Google. Like, if Sam Altman and his team left, and OpenAI is left just with the 3 board members and like 20 employees, whatever was left, right? Now they can't do anything. People are going to pull out, just like what happened with Twitter. People are going to pull out their whatever advertising or their investments or whatever it is. Like, people are going to back off and say, "Whoa, you guys are unstable. I don't think I want to put money there yet." And so what would end up happening is that they would start to spiral out of control, because they probably have debt and a lot of other things. And there would have been like this crazy bidding war for all their patents and copyrights. Anything that they've already developed that is proprietary to them, all these companies like Oracle and or Cisco, and you know what I mean, like all these IT companies would have come into the fray and said, we want those patents, right? So they would have bid it up and just dissolved the company and kept all the data. And so for Microsoft, if I was in Microsoft's position, I wouldn't want to hire Sam Altman. I would say, you got to do what you got to do to save that company, man. Like, having you on board is great, but the patents are over there. That's what I want. I want that stuff, the data. Um,
Right,
and so I think that's why they did an about, like, they hired him and then he's like, nope, I'm going back to OpenAI. Like,
right.
it's
But
insane.
I think what Microsoft was thinking, that you know all the patents are in Sam Altman's and Greg Brockman's head. So they could, I mean, why do I
Right.
need the patent if I can hire the person who created the company, who knows how to do
Here's
another
here's
version of it?
here's
And
why
in
I would
California,
assume.
there's a non-compete, by the way, in California. So there's a flexible no-compete laws that allows people to move from one company and another, and basically bring their technology or the intellectual property with them.
Yeah, I mean, you can't bring it with you, but you can't be out of a job. So like if I'm an engineer at Microsoft and I help develop something and then I go to Google, I can do that because in the past there was these non-competes that would say you cannot be employed. I've even had those in the investment industry where it says I can't work for another brokerage firm or something for like a year because their fear is I sell them all my customers. They pay me all this money. I go to another company and I just start calling my customers and say, hey, come back with me. And now it's the customer's choice that they came with me. So I got paid for zero, right? So in my industry, they have something like that where, all right, we're going to buy the business, but you can't work for a year. Okay. In California, there was like probably the most recent famous case was the Waymo case. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but there was an employee that worked at, I want to say he worked either, oh God, it's been a few years now. Either he worked at Google and went to Uber and provided a lot of the automation, like the driverless automation technology to that other company, and there was a huge lawsuit, or it was the other way around. Either he worked at Uber, they developed this self-driving technology, and then he went to Google and then got sued. So yes, you can bring your knowledge, but you cannot duplicate something explicitly because then they can sue you for that. So Sam Altman wouldn't
Absolutely.
be able to just recreate OpenAI at Microsoft. He wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, but also remember that OpenAI is an open source company
Yeah.
initially. So a lot of the patents are already in the public sphere. Like I remember in
Yes.
my thesis, in my master's thesis, I referred to a lot of my in the literature review, I referenced a lot of the articles and the papers that are written by OpenAI because they are in the scientific domain, they are in the public. And
Hmm.
also, like all these other companies, Google released a ton of papers, Microsoft released a ton of papers. And by the way, one of the interesting papers that released by Microsoft, which I referenced in my thesis, talks about sparks of artificial general intelligence within GPT-4, which is the model that we currently have, and the
Okay.
latest model in OpenAI. I mean, now they have the GPT-4 Turbo. But this paper, by the way, is relevant today in our discussion because the Elias Askaber party is arguing that we're moving too fast with this technology, and we might releasing things releasing things prematurely, and basically, there's like safety concerns about, okay, what is the implications of releasing AGI? Imagine GPT-4 right now is an AGI,
Hmm.
and it's available for $20 a month. So this is, I mean, in their head, this is too fast. We shouldn't be doing that. And
Right.
this is one of the arguments about like the dangers of AI. Another one is what you mentioned about the queue. I have a lot of watch later videos on YouTube that I want to
By
watch
the way,
later about it.
I think that is an AGI, by the way, Q star. I think that's not an
Uh-huh.
LLM. I believe that's something else entirely. So, yeah,
Yeah. No, I totally believe that in the near future we're gonna be able to subscribe to an AGI who will do a lot of things for you. Like imagine all the tasks on your to-do list, anything that can be performed on the internet, you could assign an AGI to do it instantly for a service fee, which is really gonna be scary because a lot of people, they spend most of their days doing these processes. So these people are gonna be I wouldn't say out of job, because I think the job market is evolving with this technology. I think,
I agree.
you know,
I'm not worried about it. I think it's
yeah,
silly to
because
worry about losing your job.
I had a TV interview, by the way, last week, I think, with a television station in Lebanon. They interviewed me in Arabic, and they were talking about, like, about AI, and they asked me if they're gonna lose their jobs from AI, and I said, thankfully, we are living in a capitalistic society, and capitalism keeps saving us
Yes,
time and time again. Because without capitalism, yes, people are going to lose their job. But with capitalism, imagine you are a company and you have access to $200 an hour, $200 per month to an AGI who would probably do two or three or four employees' work, right? And you have already five people on your team. So and then I am a competitor, and I also have five people on the team, and I see that you have hired AGI, and now your team, instead of firing them, you have each of them given them new goals and new tasks to do, new things to employ this AGI with, to capitalize on your profits or your market share. And here I am trying to compete with you. I would rush the next day. I will try to get this AGI as the same way as I do, and I
absolutely.
will not fire my team. I will keep my team, because this team is going to compete with your team, and both of the teams are empowered by AGI, and it's going to be 10x both of our contribution, or both of our GDP, or both of our domestic product, or the output of our product is going to double and triple and 10x. So why would I
Yeah,
lose that?
right. And I mean, and on top of it, there's another thing that I think that people need to realize. I'll tell you a little background. What time is it, by the way? I want to make sure I don't run you out of time. I don't know if you have a
No,
set
you're
schedule
good.
today. Um,
No,
so I'll give you guys an anecdote about myself. I'm in the finance industry, and my background has always revolved around the markets that were being traded, the products, the all the information behind it, like the fundamental analysis and all that. And over the last 10 years, my job has shifted from comprehending the flow of all those bits into putting them into automated systems. Okay, it wasn't by choice. It wasn't that I chose to be in that, but it was like if somebody shows up and tells, let's just pretend, man, a pizzeria guy, a pizza baker, hey, how do you make the pizza? Show me. How would we automate this process? And that pizza maker starts, okay, well, if we do this and put this and did this, and then you've got an automated pizza maker, right? That guy's not worried about his job because that guy knows how to fix it when it breaks. That guy understands the limitations of the inputs and outputs of that system, right? So if I disappear, the next guy might not know he can't use this kind of yeast or that kind of flour or this kind of lard or whatever, right? They might not understand those things. So, and I can tell you that it is extremely, extremely, extremely difficult to create what I would say to standardize data, to create uniformity amongst data throughout data. Okay. And what people need to consider is that these language models still don't fully understand when there's hiccups, when there's little like issues, inconsistencies in the data. That language model still doesn't have the intelligence to sit there and go, oh, that doesn't belong here, that should be over here, somebody screwed up, they typed it too fast, whatever. It simply sees that and says, I don't recognize that value. It might be something simple like the word purple, but if it says purple with an S at the end, purples, suddenly that's not in the it's not anywhere in the categories. You know what I mean? It doesn't have the intelligence to say, oh, the S doesn't belong, that's not a really a word. What it does is it tries to find a match for that specific value of characters somewhere else, right? That's why jobs are going to be very difficult to get lost in this process, in this part of in this phase of the implementation of AI into our society, because you still
Right.
need people that understand common sense, that can look at it and go, oh, we put the wrong thing into this model, right? So if an AI was building doing all of these things, it would eventually start to create error code on top of error code on top of error code unknowingly, right? And
Right.
we are the watchers. We need to check that code. So I wouldn't be worried about losing my job. I would tell people the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, I mean, maybe when AGI happens, could be this is a different story. But right now, as soon as long as it's a tool right now. It's an empowering tool that people shouldn't be afraid of, and
Hmm.
should really embrace. And this, it's very important. And I always say to my people that you should be using it heavily. So you should learning about it. You should be getting trained, and this is why, like, even Parrots Lab offers, part of the offering is training and coaching, and technology inclusion is very important in society, especially with transformative technologies like this. I want to share my screen with you, and I show you the latest GPTs. Basically, these are the main product from the dev day, that I think people are ignoring them, but they are pretty intense. They are, I think, a huge advancement to ChatGPT, because it can let you customize ChatGPT to a certain task. So this is, for example, the regular ChatGPT. So here, I can ask anything what you ask ChatGPT. The only problem is that every time you want to ask ChatGPT a question, you would have to give it context. Meaning that if I am asking about how to, like, please produce for me for example, a LinkedIn post, right? But Noel, you are very successful on LinkedIn. Your posts get a
I
lot of
wouldn't say that.
attention, right?
Yeah.
But and I would say, like, for example, if I can go here and say, write me a LinkedIn post about Sam Altman or whatever. The model here will generate a very cliche one, right? It will not. Of course, it might be interesting, but you didn't tell the system what emotion do you want to evoke from the audience. You
Right.
didn't tell the audience, okay, every person writes in a certain specific way. For example, for me, this is too long. I like to have concise posts. This is for me a rule of thumb. But for you, probably you want it even longer. You want it to be a different. Even the way, the language. Maybe you don't write this way. Your audience expect from you a certain style. That's why they like you. That's why they share your stuff. That's why they interact with your stuff. Maybe you are a little bit on the edge of provocative a little bit. Maybe you are daring a little bit. This AI doesn't do that, because it's really very safe, typical, because right now you didn't give it any instructions or any context, right? Now, if I want to build for you an AI model that writes pretty much similar to what you write on LinkedIn. So what I do here, I go to Explore, and I go to create a GPT. So now GPT is
Oh, I
telling
love
you,
this.
this is the
Sorry.
GPT builder, right?
Yeah.
So now we're building you a GPT that will respond to you at any time. Anytime you open that GPT, it knows that this is okay. I'm going to say, we want to have a GPT that LinkedIn content creator for Noel Rogers. Okay. And now it's iterative. So now it's updating the GPT. It's trying to, okay, I'm building it for me, and then see how it's gonna start asking you questions, because it's
Yeah.
wanna customize it for
So
you.
so right now, this GPT, this specific one, is it scraping my profile, or it's
No,
just it's not? Okay.
no. Now it's saying, great. Let's name the GPT. Okay, Noel's LinkedIn wizard. Do you like this name,
Sure.
Noel?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Sure. Sounds great. Okay, I added an equal here somewhere. Okay. Now it's going to generate a profile picture for that GPT. So now, when it's generate a profile picture, you could add your photo yourself, You can, I mean,
Yeah.
I will show you what I have built as well. But like this is your profile
That's pretty
picture.
cool, man. That's pretty cool.
So now we've got this base GPT. Now it's
Tell it
telling you that
tell it to make the wizard Mexican though. Let's see what I'm
make,
curious. And while you're
make the
doing that, I'm going
wizard,
to read. I'm just going to read Marianne's comment earlier.
please.
There, she said there are results of implementation studies coming out now in healthcare, time savings for healthcare providers in documentation. Yeah, Marianne, I hate to say this, but I was thinking about that this morning, and I think healthcare is one of the industries that's probably going to like shrink tremendously. I thought it was going to explode originally, but I think it's going to shrink. And I'll tell you why, because everything revolves around doctors who are knowledge based. Like you go to a doctor for their knowledge and that's it, right? That's really the purpose of doing that. And so if you now you've got telehealth where you could talk to a computer at home or whatever, and that doctor is remote, same thing. Eventually you're going to have an AI person with all of the medical knowledge that exists that looks like a doctor, where you just log in on your app and you go, hey, I'm not feeling well. Here's my symptoms. It might ask 3 or 4 more questions and say, here's what you need to do. And I'm approving this prescription, and it sends it right to your pharmacy. So all of that superficial level healthcare, I think, is going to go, it's going to disappear, and it's all going to be automated.
I
Sorry, sorry,
I
Naja.
will I
Yeah.
will no, 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 it's okay. Her second answer, what her second question where was, when do you project this to happen? I would say in the coming, I would say the problem with healthcare is a heavily regulated industry. But I would say even right now, actually, Greg Brogman, one of the founders of OpenAI, he um, before releasing ChatGPT to the world, his wife had an issue, has a medical problem. He went to 6 doctors, and all the diagnosis, they diagnosed her with this severe problem. Okay, he had access to GPT-4 before everyone else. He went there and he asked ChatGPT. Remember, these guys have access to the raw intelligence. They don't have
Right.
the
The
safeguards.
unlimited.
Without safeguards, no,
Right.
we poor
There's no
people, we have
parachute.
safeguards. Yes.
Yeah.
So he asked, and then the AI did a different diagnosis and saved his wife's life. So this is in the early
Really?
stage. Yes. And this
I
is in
didn't
the
know
early
that
stage.
story. Wow.
So imagine all of the medical data is being fed to these models. Imagine the regulatory industry start to approve working with them. You will see very quickly that the doctor's job is not to diagnose anymore. I think the diagnosis, even the treatment plan, is already there. I
Yeah.
feel that nurses will keep their jobs more than doctors, and that's
Yes.
insane to me.
Because
So
nurses have to
doctor,
administer everything like physically, right? They have to give
yeah,
you your shot or draw blood or give you your whatever, feel your what's your temperature, whatever, put the blood pressure thing on you, et cetera, et cetera.
right,
Nurses have a physical task. Doctor doesn't. It's all based on all their years of study. So they're
yes,
used. I mean,
maybe
I'm sorry if
surgeons.
you're a doctor out there, start learning how to be a plumber guy because you're probably going to be out of a job.
No, I think there's a transition period. Let's say in the coming 3, 4, 5 years, doctors who work with this technology will see an increase in their success rate, and they
Hmm.
will in popularity, and obviously they make a lot of money. And doctors who don't embrace this technology will fall behind very quickly. But I'm afraid that even in the far future, even doctors who embrace it, they will find no need for their skills. But this could also apply to me and you, and everyone. So I think we have a very interesting 5 years to come to really see what's the potential of all of this and how it's going to turn out.
Agreed, agreed. And just to follow up, just to finish up with Marianne here, because I know you got to get back to the ChatGPT thing. She's asking, when do we project this will happen? I think we will definitely see it in our lifetime. I think in the next 5 to 10 years is when you will see really transformative technologies. It's kind of like when we first heard about the internet, and everyone was like, "Oh, have you heard of AOL and Prodigy and all?" Like yeah, some of us would get online, some of us didn't, but for 5 to 10 years, we all kind of ignored it, and then it became a thing where companies started adopting it, and all sorts of businesses. Now you can't exist without it, right? It's practically impossible. And then she says, physicians and nurses who use AI LLMs will have an important role change. Fact checker. Thank you. Okay, so Marianne touched on one of the things that I was going to, Naja, was, remember I said earlier we
Right.
need people to verify that it's not creating error code on top of error code, right? Because
Hmm.
AI makes an assumption, and if you're okay with its assumption, it will make an additional assumption on top of that assumption. Eventually, there's
Right.
so many assumptions based on the model or in the model that it's gonna be so. Yes, um, AI is gonna need fact checkers, absolutely, and neutral fact checkers at that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then just to linger a little bit on this point, which is very important point. I think what's end up happening is that these LLMs, someone's going to build a medical LLM. This is how I see the path. I mean, maybe if an investor is listening to this, oh, okay, come, let's have a talk and let's build this together, right? But this is how I see it happening is that a company like Anthropic or Inflection or AI or whatever, they're going to specialize their large language model on the medical field.
Mhm.
They're going to train it only on medical, high quality medical information, and they will put it out in the world with a technology or with a type of machine learning called reinforcement learning, basically, which means that you put this model within the healthcare practitioners, and then they start to make a diagnosis and check the diagnosis on the LLM and see if the LLM produces any mistakes. With reinforcement learning, you can reward the LLM or punish the LLM.
Hmm.
What this means is that you basically training, it's like a child. You're training the child on medical information. And if they do any mistakes, you punish. If they do good, you reward. And then the LLM will start learning and learning and making less and less mistakes with time. It's just like self-driving cars, right? There's always people who are reinforcing the learning for them because they are learning from general data that the data might have mistakes with embedded in them.
Right.
The data might have biases embedded. With reinforcement learning, you kind of bypass that. You kind of correct and tweak that data point. Another point that's very important is that within time, these LLMs will be trained on data from their own generation. So imagine you come to
That's the
ChatGPT, tell it
scary
like,
part.
yeah, like
Yeah.
tell it like produce for me like 500 books on cancer only from these extremely credible sources, and then be as creative as you can and try to find solutions for whatever hidden problem there is. And then you take this data and then you put it back as a training data for the LLM, and then so on and so forth. You don't need any more human text. You can always
Right.
have the AI generate the text, and then yeah. So anyway, so this is thanks again, Mary Ann, for the comments, and let's go
Great
back to
questions.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go back to your
So
GPT.
so apparently OpenAI thinks Mexican has a look. There's bias already right there because it made
There you go.
a a brown skinned guy with a darker beard.
Yep, yep.
There's the
Because why?
bias.
Because
Yeah. But
mhm.
anyway, I mean, how would you know, right? Like Mexican wizard. Okay, go ahead.
Remember, it's trained on the information in the internet, on all
I
the
know.
images of Mexican on the internet. So
I
it's
know. I know.
all right.
I
So
just like to point out to people that, like it or not, there will be bias in anything that we invent.
right.
You just have to
So
accept it.
now
Yeah.
now you are training your GPT to write content for you, right? So now you wanted to add some style. So you say, I want to be concise, and I want to be, um, let's say,
Confident.
creative,
Let's make and
and
confident.
yeah,
You want to say use a matter of factly tone. Yeah.
using matter.
Matter MTT double T of factly tone.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It knows. That's
It
the
knows
beauty
what
of
you're. Yeah.
Matter of factly tone. Um, do you want it to be sassy as well, or no? Do you want
Sure,
to inject
sure. Let's have a little fun. Why not?
be sassy
As well.
and
Yeah.
witty and controversial? Okay, let's try to make it a little bit extreme and then see what we get. And then after that, I'm gonna go to the configures side and show you what you can do to make it sound like you, right? Because again, you man, you're like
Everybody has
what,
their own style. Yes. Yep.
40 years in the making? How old are you? I mean, I don't want to expose you or anything, but like, anyways, so you go to the configure side, right? And here you see what the builder has generated for you. And so you can also, change the instructions, add to the instructions, whatever. You can change these questions here. So let's say you always come draft a bold LinkedIn post for Noel's on current topic. Okay, now you can say here, okay, you can say every time, okay, sorry, you can say here, and this is something I do with a lot of GPTs I create. So I say, every time I give you this prompt, okay, right, I want you to answer in a certain way. So first, ask me before generating any text, ask me what is the current topic I want a post on. Okay. So now you're instructing it like before starting ramping on and generating anything. Just tell me what do you want me to generate on, and then here I remember you telling me that you have downloaded all your LinkedIn, all the posts, your data from LinkedIn you've ever did in your life, right? And it's tons of material. You
Right.
can go ahead and upload it here, bro. So now you can upload here a PDF file that could contain anything about you, anything that you have done before, and this would be your knowledge base. And then from there, you can say, okay, do you want this bot to go to the internet? Because you can ask it to go to the internet. So, for example, you could have another question here. Draft on the high on the main news of the day. So here, browse the internet. Okay, so here you're instructing it to browse the internet and find the main piece of news or news headline or the main news story. Okay.
What do you guys in the audience think? Everybody that's watching, what do you guys think about this? Is there anything you'd like to suggest to make it even more silly here, so that we can play around with it? Any suggestions out there, guys? So far, man, it looks great. I,
Okay. So now let's see. Let's test it out. Again, it's an iterative process, so you test it out. So draft a bold set with a current topic. Let's see if it asks question about. Did you see that? It didn't
yeah,
go ahead and create anything. It tells you, okay, let's talk about.
let's do SpaceX, man. They recently had a shuttle that went up, and when it came back, the tiles were burnt off, which is very dangerous, obviously. So I'm just
Mm,
wondering, yeah, let's just do SpaceX. Let's see what it does.
okay.
Let's see how sassy we can make space travel.
Okay, space exploration is always hot. Is there specific angle? So it's really trying to produce a more specific catered
Yeah, so the
post for
recent
you.
launch where the Starship came back with burnt tiles or tiles that fell off. Starship came back without tiles.
Okay. Right. So now this one is not trained on your style, but basically you see how it responded to your query. It's
Right,
providing
right.
it with, yeah. Now I want to test the other question, which is generate something completely from the internet, right? So here, I think main events on the news. So now you will see that it will go to the news. See, doing research on Bing. It's going to the news, checking what is happening in Reuters, right? And it's going to create a story for you from the main news story of the day. Without, like, you could easily automate, link this to automation tools, and this is what we offer at Paris Lab. So I can link this output to an automation tool that will publish immediately on LinkedIn without even you having to read it, right? And then all of a sudden you have a content machine that is producing this content for you right away. So now it creates this news story about hostage held by Hamas and subsequent release of Palestinian prisoners by Israel, right? So this is the main story. So it created an article for that, and it had the references to the sources, right? So it's improving even when it comes to the sources. So you could easily see the potential of like how you could do
Right. It
stuff.
even gives you the yeah, the notations, like where it got the data from in case you want the citations. Yeah.
Yeah,
Couldn't remember the name, but that's yeah, that's pretty cool. But okay, so let me ask you this, and people are probably wondering this. What you just did, I can do. So how would you sell me a GPT? Like
right. So
what makes you able to create something that I can't prompt with enough trial and error to get to the same GPT that I want for my business? Why would I buy one from you? That's where
absolutely.
I think people are going next, right? With these GPT stores or
Yes.
whatever.
No, definitely. I At the moment, the only added value is that this iteration process. So now, if you see the last post, it was long, so I have to come back to it and say, hey, always make sure that you
It's
be concise.
concise.
And then I can work more on the questions. I can work more on the data sources. Even like for me, like like I could make sure that I gather the files in the proper way. I organize them the knowledge base architecture is another ball game that you can optimize, so you can have the knowledge ways structured in a way that is easy for the model to read and understand. You can take there's the chain of thought prompting, which will take the model into a chain of thought reasoning for it to do anything. And there's these questions, and you can codify them. You can say, if I press X, do Y. So you can have codes within the chat that's very personal to you. And
Like
now if you
language
are like,
language macros basically.
yes, like
Yeah.
you codifying and shortcuts and stuff like that. And then yeah, basically anybody can do this. So as a company, we wouldn't sell services like this unless
No, no,
people want
I'm just
to
saying
save
generally.
time.
Right. No, I'm
Yeah,
just saying generally that's the future, right? It's like there's a lot of places that want to go towards this like chat GPT app store model now.
yeah,
And my question isn't really about not why would I buy it from Naja? It's like why would I buy it from anyone if anyone can create it and
exactly.
anyone
So now,
can trade it and exchange it? Why
so
wouldn't I
this
just yeah.
Noel Lizard Wizard, right? This is right now, it's private. It's only via link. If I
Mhm.
give you the link, you can access it, but you can make it public.
Yeah.
Once you make it public, it becomes on the GPT store. If other people find it interesting, instead of building, for example, if I want to build an investment consultant, right? And then this investment consultant, I will put my own investing strategy within that consultant. And then it start making me good money. Now I tell Noel, hey man, I have this investment, just use it. It will produce signals for buy and sell signals, for example.
Hmm.
So now if this consultant becomes popular of actually making money for people, then people will start sharing it and using it, and OpenAI is going to share the revenue with you. So
Yeah, but
OpenAI is going to give you.
where does the revenue come from? I guess that's what I'm saying. Like if somebody shared it with me for free, like somebody gave me like, hey, here's the prompts that Naja used to create his investment GPT, right? Let's say
Uh-huh.
someone knows all your prompts because it's trial and error. I can figure it out eventually. I can reverse engineer your prompting work basically, right?
Yes.
Do you agree? We
Can
anyone can
you?
do that. I think you
So
can. I think you
So
can. You eventually try to get to the same end result, basically, right? It's
yeah,
tough,
but
but
it's
I think it
hard.
can be done. Yeah.
It's hard, especially for something like investment. There's a lot of you tell me like there's a lot of intricacies about it. So you can always, but yes, that's true. But imagine like YouTube. I think the YouTube is the easier way to understand it. Like you put it up in the cloud. You put this GPT up, and people using it. You don't pay to watch YouTube, do you? So if imagine I'm using your GPT, I don't need to pay to use it. So the revenue comes from the traffic and the data and the growth of the platform. It's like a GPT store becomes a place to go for
Okay, but
whatever you
what
want to
data?
go.
Right. No, I get that. Like, okay, so you wrote it. Let's pretend you wrote it. It makes money.
Mhm.
Okay. No question about it. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Najee. I swear to God.
No, no, no. Of
I'm
course,
trying
of
to
course.
understand from my own knowledge where the money is going to come from. Like, okay, so you created an app, you wrote the prompts. Let's say it took you a week of prompting back and forth to really get it to what exactly you want as the output, right? And you say to me, Noel, here is this prompt. Just use Naja's prompt. It's publicly available. Just say, I want to use Naja's system, and that will prompt it. Okay. When I use it and it gives me a trading signal, right? Maybe I lose money, maybe I make money. I don't know, whatever. But how did OpenAI make money from me? And then how did OpenAI as a result? Because when I'm prompting, I have to pay every time I prompt, right? So OpenAI is getting a percentage. If I remember correctly, they're basically charging me to compute that prompt. But if that prompt already exists and already did the computing once, right? Naja prompted it and said, tell me what are the best 5 trades for the day. That is already existing somewhere, right? Like that output has already been generated. The processing power has already been spent. So now I have that same prompt. If I were OpenAI, I wouldn't, when somebody asks the exact same question, I wouldn't re-process the query because I feel that that's just wasting processing power, and I wouldn't want that, right? So, in my mind, if somebody's already asked this question, just like it works with Google search, as people are starting to ask the question, I would say, oh, there's already an answer for it. Here's the 5 trades that were suggested to Naja and other users. So, there's been no processing done yet. So, is
I see where you're coming
OpenAI
from.
charging
I
me
see where
to
you're coming
ask the
from.
question, or how am where is there a trigger that they
So
make money and then as a result you as a creator make money is where I'm going with this.
okay, so how would ChatGPT make money? That's a huge thing, right? That's a huge question. But you can ask it the same in the early days of Google. Like Google have a search engine open to the public for free. How do they make money? Making money, it comes usually in these tech companies, comes at the later stage. All they care about is user
Mm.
base, man. I
Numbers, yeah,
remember I worked for a client who was a publicly listed company. They were burning millions of dollars every year and every month.
yeah,
And then and I don't and I it was so shocking for me. Like, what is this business? Like, and all they say is that we are working towards to achieve the next round of investment, and the next
hmm
round is based on the number of users. So these VCs, they will tell you like, okay, reach 100 million users, active users, and here's a second round of investment. They don't care if you're burning through them
right,
like you
right,
know like um, like cheese, right? So that it doesn't matter as long as you're obtaining the user
yeah,
base, then you're doing well. And then later we worry about monetizing, and there's a ton of way for OpenAI to make money. When people depend on it, then you can embed suggestions. Like a lot of times I will like what is a good restaurant in Chicago, and then this restaurant sure enough will pay OpenAI to feature their restaurant
right.
there.
Now you get
So I
into,
could easily say,
yeah, and now you get into those other questions, and so that's the danger of AI. Now you get into the questions of, how do I know that what it's telling me isn't sponsored by someone? You know what I mean? Like, which country paid the most so that it will say this or omit this, right? Like if I wanted to say,
yeah.
was, for example, it was the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, whatever, I don't know how to pronounce it. Was that good or bad? If I'm Saudi Arabia, I might pay OpenAI. Look, I'm going to pay you $50 billion. Anytime anyone queries this question or this issue, I want it to never talk about it or basically sugarcoat it. Here's the 50 billion, figure it out. You know what I mean? Like that's another thing that I think people fear is, how do I know that the output of this system is accurate, or that it's solid? I think when ChatGPT 3 came out, it predicted the stock market was going to crash, I don't know, in July or something last year. I don't know if you remember that. There was an article about it. Never crashed, man. It never happened. So imagine that you're the person that spent all this money investing. It gave you the 5 stocks. You invested all that money and you lost all that money. So I think that's the other thing that people fear about AI. But getting back to this GPT thing, um, I think that for anybody that's watching this, you have to imagine the daily use of this tool in your daily life. Like, for example, uh, I have this whole budgeting process at home for my wife and I, and it takes me, I kid you not, it probably takes me about 4 hours to do our budget every 2 weeks. As soon as money comes in, the first thing I do is, how much money did we get? I double check that the amount that hit the account is correct, that there were no weird charges, and I start paying my bills. Okay, what's due? And I have a whole system, right, on Excel. For people at home, ChatGPT would be something that would fix that for you. You would give it all the prompts. I mean, it would take some work, but you would give it all the prompts to, if you felt confident, you could probably tell it to log into these systems and provide payment, and then send you a receipt of payment and log it in your spreadsheet somewhere, feed it into a table where it says this bill has been paid, right? That's how I see this thing first getting used, is those little things we can solve that are at our fingertips.
Absolutely. And I do it all the time. Like I have the podcast and everything. So when I prepare for the podcast, now I have a GPT for the podcast that knows my tone of voice, that knows all the previous episode we've had, that knows the mission and the purpose of the podcast, so that it's
Mm,
aligned. So every time I generate content for this podcast, it's aligned with the purpose of the content, right? So right now, for example, what you're seeing on the screen is that with basic, very basic, I can optimize the investment inside GPT 10 times more, and I think you can optimize it 10 times more because you are more familiar in the investment. Actually, I learned a ton from you. Like most of my learning on the investment side is from you. So imagine you are programming this investment insight to give trading signals based on the recent business news. So this is what I prompted to do. And then based on the latest market news, here are 4 insights that could inform your buy and sell decisions. However, please remember to consult financial advisor or whatever. Of course, even I would say right now is like, don't use it right away in this way
right,
without
right.
I don't want any liability here. We're just sharing what this thing can do.
We're not giving investment advice. Let's
We're
be
not giving
clear.
investment advice, but I
Yeah,
just showing the capability. So retail
right,
sector. So retailers like Home Depot and Best Buy outperformed the broader market on Black Friday, kicks the holiday shopping season. The trend suggests a potential buy signal for these retail stocks, especially if
right.
holiday sales continue to show. See what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. It's
for
giving
in
you. Yeah, it's
no
amazing.
voice,
Yeah.
yeah. And then it looks at the today's news,
One
right?
second,
And give you
Marianne's taken off. Marianne, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure. One of these days, hopefully you'll join us on camera or something. We're always open to having people join the conversation with us. So,
absolutely.
I'm inviting you on Naja's. I'm taking the liberty of inviting inviting people.
No worries.
But
No, absolutely.
cheers, Marianne. Thank you. Yeah, man, this is great. I think that here's what I think would be interesting, man. If you were to say, okay, what GPTs can be the most useful to the least savvy people out there. Like,
Mhm.
how would you sell GPT to my mom, basically, to your grandparents, to somebody that's
Mm.
afraid of computers? And I say that because whoever cracks that code is going to be the one that sells the most early on, right? Because
Yes.
now I remember, man, when Facebook first came out, I remember we would laugh at it. We were all on MySpace. We were young, I don't know, teenagers or 20 something year olds. I forget how old we were, but we
Mhm.
had MySpace. It was the coolest thing in the world. And Facebook came out and it was like this boring thing. And I was like, what's the point of another, whatever, man. When you start seeing mainstream adoption of a system, when my mom got on Facebook, I knew this thing is finally going to explode. It's no longer a niche social media website. It's actually going to become the dominant social media website for the whole planet. Um, and so that's what I would ask ChatGPT. If you could convince 10 older people that are potentially business owners to use it, that
Mhm.
I think would be the hurdle. Like, I think, oh, okay, this is what we could sell. You know what I'm saying? Like, figure out what problem can you solve at the lowest level to people that don't know how to use this, because they're the ones that would probably want to pay for this if it really helps their life out. What is this? Pin my ride, name it. Make a creative who helps generate visuals for new products, or make a software engineer who helps format my code. What would you like to make? Pin my ride. How about we name this GPT Auto Artist? Sounds good.
Okay. I want to show you that because I'm gonna upload. Let's go for like an old Toyota
Camry or something?
Co-
Uh, Corolla?
Camry. Let's do Camry, 1999. Okay, this is a very old model. Okay, let's get a car. Let's do. Shall we do this one? Let's do this one.
All right, that looks pretty cool, actually. Yeah, here's the profile
Yeah.
picture of a Pimp My Ride. It showcases a sleek car with neon underglow lights, capturing the essence of car customization. Do you like it, or would you like
Awesome.
to make like any? Do you like it, or would you like any changes? I'd say leave it. I think it looks great.
Let's go. And then I'm gonna.
And this is a really dumb question, man. But what happens if you start speaking to ChatGPT in another language? Can you prompt it in Arabic? I'm curious if it will reply in Arabic. In that
It does.
same, just keep going, keep going. But I'm just curious if you say something in Arabic to pimp my ride, will it now reply in Arabic, or will it reply in
Let's see.
English?
I don't know if my keyboard. Let me check Arabic
Or try
keyboard.
Spanish. I'll give you some Spanish words. I can type something in Spanish and
Okay, I said pimp my ride in Arabic, basically. Let's see. Okay, so now it understood the car. So I uploaded, by the way, a car that is the
yeah.
Toyota 1998 Toyota Camry sedan. This is the picture that I just uploaded. I
But
downloaded it from the internet and I uploaded it. And I
question for
asked it.
you: do you have to
Mhm.
call the image? Does it recognize the image? I'm sure it does. It should. Or do you have to name the image what you want it to identify? Like, this is a picture of an apple, and then you know what I mean? Or how did it
Mhm.
know it's a Toyota Camry? From the name
From
in
the
the image?
No, from the image itself.
So it scans it just like the reverse search on Google. It
Absolutely.
scans it, and okay, that's phenomenal. Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna take another screenshot. I'm gonna show it to you. I'm gonna take a screenshot that the file name will be screenshot, and I'm gonna start a new chat so that it forgets about the old one, and I'm gonna upload
just say,
that.
hey, I'm starting a new car or whatever. You don't, yeah, that way you don't need to make a
Yes.
whole new prompt.
Okay, and then here, okay, pimp this car. So she doesn't. This the car. The name of the car is a
Yeah, it's a
screenshot.
Hyundai Elantra. It looks like,
No. It's a
or
Toyota
maybe it's
Camry.
a. Is that
It's
a
a Toyota.
Camry?
Look. Yeah.
Holy
Just focus
shit,
on the
man!
logo is Toyota.
I can't read it.
Okay.
It's blurry. Yeah.
Look at that. You've got a classic sedan here, and it's a great canvas. Okay. Let's think about. Okay. Maybe they're not allowed
Yeah,
to
try.
talk
Just
about.
say, what is this car model? Tell me the model of this car.
Okay, what is the model of the car? And please generate an image in DALI with this car
Already pimped.
pimped. Okay. So you see what I'm doing here? So now I asked the model of the car, and now it said Toyota Corolla mid 90s, bro. It,
Wow, I love it.
it nailed it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it did. It did.
And
Yeah.
now it's telling you what's the image generation, what it's gonna do for that. It's gonna do the real lustrous metallic blue paint job with a pearlescent top coat of the color. It's gonna do a set of 18-inch modern alloy wheels. It's doing the LED highlights. It's doing the suspend. It's lowering the suspension. It's performance brake, and there you go, bro. You've got
Yeah.
a pimped ride right there. So imagine like it's your car. Now you know
Nice.
what you want to do for that car. What
Yeah.
colors you want. You can change. You can say like make it orange.
It's like we're gods now.
Orange
We can just snap our fingers and create
and
something out
make
of thin
make
air.
the background as a beach. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think it's just worth like a shot. Like this pimp my ride. If I can customize it in a way that really produces amazing photos of these cars and then help people really pimp them, there's a use case for that. You know, not all of
Yeah.
the people want to spend hours and hours just optimizing this model and optimizing it and training it and iterating and say, no, you don't do that. Look at that. Isn't that
Yep.
beautiful?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's going to be the value there is depending on how long the person, the let's call it the GPT engineer,
Hmm.
the LLM engineer, um, however long they spent perfecting a prompt. So of course you're going to have some really refined prompts out there that, yeah, they do become proprietary for companies or even for people, right? Where you might perfect a prompt over months, and that's where the value is. Like, I am not going to sell this unless I get a lot of money because I worked so hard on fine tuning it. But I also feel that it's going to be possible, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I could just as easily go into a GPT and say, can you please help me reverse engineer Naja's GPT so that I get the same output? And I would expect that language model can, through its algorithm and thought process, go backwards and kind of say, these are the prompts I believe that Naja is using in his GPT. It's not 100%, but this is what I believe gets us as close to that. So I think people
Right.
will also do that. It's going to be very hard to, I think it's going to be very hard in the future to have secrets of any kind. Like, I heard there's a company, and I have to research this. I have to look up this article, but I could swear I read somewhere or I saw an interview somewhere where somebody used like a chat GPT basically type of system to create every possible musical combination of musical notes that could exist. And they copyright all of that. Now anybody that creates a new song has to pay them a royalty because they discovered that sound first, right? Again, I have to do the research and go find the
Right.
article, figure out if this was in the United States or if this was in another country or if it was like a test case. I don't remember.
Right.
But imagine if that was real. Imagine if somebody out there has already recreated or created everything with these systems, and they just say, no, you can't say those words. That's in my book. I created a
Right.
book with every word and every context and every, you know what I'm saying. So I think it's going to be very hard, man, for people um, to have proprietary systems because I think the AI is going to be able to dismantle those and kind of figure out the secret sauce over time.
Uh, I think in the future, what you said about proprietary thing is not in the future. Right now on YouTube, like let's say we go on YouTube and we talk about the OpenAI Saga. There's
Yeah,
already maybe tens and hundreds of videos on YouTube right now talking about that exact same saga. So there's no proprietary in the information.
Right.
It's just that the distribution is what matters, right? So if you have enough distribution for your GPT, you could, get a lot of users, and similarly, you could get a lot of views on YouTube, and YouTube will compensate you based on your views. And similarly, OpenAI will compensate you based on your usership of these GPTs. But I think the main opportunity, especially for businesses, is not really the GPTs, but it's more on the back end side of things, the assistant. So in the dev day, they uncovered something called assistant, which is kind of, imagine the same GPT, but you can white label it. You can embed it into your website. You can embed it within your intranets. You can embed it within the processes and procedures of your employees, that they can actually, it's a GPT that's programmed on huge amount of your information, of your company information, and then it will become kind of the mentor of the employees. It can be the helper in the company, the basically an
Yeah.
assistant
Like an
specifically for your
HR
company.
HR trainer slash, like it answers everything for you. Hey, I don't remember how to log into this system. Oh, you can create a ticket and
Absolutely.
whatever, or go
you
get
know
this
in
over here.
in all of these companies, there's compliance managers, right? Like they have policies and procedures. So imagine training an AI on these, and be a guide for your employees. And there's another advantage for the assistant, is that it doesn't have the limitations of GPTs. So GPTs, they only take a limited amount of data as knowledge, where assistants, you can increase that a lot. So
Right.
there's also that. Also, OpenAI has made sure that even if you get sued based on the information that you are producing through these GPTs and assistants, they will cover all the legal expenses. So they will have your back too. So this is opening
Really?
more. Yeah, they're having opening
Wow.
more and more the door for corporates and for enterprise to seek to implement this technology in their business. And this is where I'm trying to have Parrots Lab play a role, whereby we hold the client's hands, and we advise them on how to use it properly. And
Yeah.
again,
That's going to be
they could,
huge.
everybody, even
Yeah.
in the business field, everybody can do this by themselves. The only thing is that I have spent the last year learning every single thing about generative AI. And a lot of people are busy doing their work, like a lot of people spend this year really worrying about like performing their job day in, day out. They haven't spent enough time to really understand what I
Right.
know right now. And therefore, consultants like me and my company would be there to solve this problem, to shortcut the learning curve, instead of
Right.
spending year investing to learn how to do these things. you know People like me have invested already that year, so hire me, and you get the shortcut basically. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're
I
right about justifying the need. Is You have valid questions there.
yeah. I think it's going to be huge, man. I think that especially businesses, uh, it's going to be like if you found a business that said we don't have a website or email. Like what? Are you kidding me? Like that's impossible. That's not a thing anymore. Everyone has a social media presence. Everyone has an email address so people can complain or ask questions. Or it doesn't matter if you're a restaurant or if you're an engineering whatever. If it doesn't matter, every business has to have this kind of presence, and they're going to get left behind if there's businesses that don't embrace AI and chat GPTs and all of these future versions of whatever this becomes. You're going to get left behind, I promise you. So yeah, it's a good idea for people to at least do this. I'm a small business owner, but I don't think ChatGPT can help me. Prove me wrong, Naja. Like that's what they should do, is tell you about their business, to give you an opportunity to say, you know what, business owner, you're right. Actually, in this case, there really isn't much I can do for you right now from a productivity standpoint. Or you're going to surprise the business owner and they're going to and say, this, and this. I can get rid of 2 employees for you, or I can enhance your services here, or I can bring in this much more revenue. At the very least, business owners should give themselves that chance to, rather than say, oh, it's not for me, I'm not familiar with it, I don't need it, at least say, do I need it? And come and talk to people like you about it, because otherwise it's going to be 10 years down the road, and they're going to be trying to figure stuff out, you know and it's going to be
Absolutely.
too
And
late. It's
and
going to be too late.
and I don't want to take. I know it's been more than an hour and a half,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah. We should.
the questions you raised are completely legitimate. If I'm asked questions like these by a real business, I would answer briefly, but I would say number one, delight your customer, user experience. Especially if you're a company who are like in hospitality field, you're in a company in place where you want to delight your customer,
Right,
you can delight them with that conversational experience. And that's why Parrots Lab, my company, is built on building conversational brands. Conversational brands are they have intimate relationship with their customers. Number two, solving the customer service problem. In the US and elsewhere in the world, I've never seen a bigger problem than customer service. You call and they put you on
oh,
these terrible waiting lines and you speak to these bots and I want to speak to a representative and you start shouting and you're losing your brain because of how horrible these customer service agents
yeah,
are. And now we have a technology that solves it pretty much a lot. Like I wouldn't say 100% yet, but I would say it will solve it in the coming year or so. You could already have monumental achievements if you deploy LLMs as a customer service. Number three, man, you can have automations.
yeah,
So as I told you right now, like if I train a GPT on your content style, and you don't have to worry, like you could post 5 times a day, you can post 10 times a day, you can post 100 times a day, 100 times a day. You flood the internet with your
right.
content. And if this content is pretty good, here you go. You are
if
accelerating your
if the chat
10x
GPT
your
content,
production.
right? Because really that's what it becomes. But
Yeah, but it's trained on your style. It's basically mimicking your style. And that's why, by the way, people ask me, why did you call Parrots Lab, your company, my company, Parrots Lab? And because parrots mimic
right,
humans and AI trying to mimic humans too. So this is the
that's a
analogy
really
here.
good. I didn't know that.
But
I didn't know
basically,
that, by the way. I never asked you that. Yeah,
yeah, so this is the rationale behind the name. But this is what I'm trying to tell you here. Like it will 10x your productivity, and especially when you start linking the ChatGPT with other applications. Like I have a ton of automations already employed within my podcast to streamline it. I have an automation that takes an email and it will start sending you a sequence of 5-10 emails in your inbox just because you sign up for a newsletter, or because you are a lead, or because you're interested in hiking. Each of these paths take you into an automation path that I don't do anything. Everything happens automatically. I have things that as soon as you sign up for a podcast, I will receive a notification on Notion that you signed up for a podcast. And this notification has pretty much all the checklists, everything I need. So these things makes life in a business much more. So
right.
I could
You
save
didn't
a
need
ton of money.
an executive assistant. Basically, is one scenario. Like that's a scenario that if you had to pay one, you wouldn't want to anymore.
Yeah, and think how many people employed right now in corporates as admin, which is
Oh
like
yeah,
really executive assistant. So if I come to your company and say, you know what, let's promote these admins to a more analytical, critical thinking roles, and let's get rid of these tedious tasks. And here's a legitimate proposition that I can give it to you, right?
yeah.
So
I
this
think
is briefly. Go ahead.
yeah. I no. I'm sorry. I think that in closing, I think that it's important if yeah, I mean this I don't want this to sound like an ad. I'm not making any money off of this, or this is my friend here, but if you have a small business, or if you have a business, even if it's just not a small business, it doesn't matter. Do yourself a service and just look into this. It doesn't have to be with Naja, if but seek it out. That is definitely advice we would give any business owner. Seek it out, understand how these things can impact your business in the future, because if you don't, technology is going to move at a much more rapid pace now than we can even begin to understand, and you don't want to get left behind, you know yeah, yeah, man.
I appreciate you, man. I think it was a wonderful hour and a half of conversation. I hope
Absolutely, man.
you liked my new look, and I changed the direction of the camera. I put my camera right there instead of in the middle, and
Yeah,
I had a more cleaner background.
I
But
like it. Yeah,
yeah, and then I told you, like, very soon, hopefully, we have a brand new camera kit and a new
I can't
lens
wait to
too.
see it, man. I'm excited. I
Oh,
have to
me
do the same.
too.
Yeah, I have to do the same, because you have this like low quality, like all of us do. I mean, I have a 1080p camera at
Mm,
60 frames per second, but it starts to degrade, right? Like, especially if you
right.
zoom out, if you watch it on some, like on a larger monitor on a TV, whatever. And so, yeah, you definitely want good technology for that stuff. Good hardware. I bought a
Yeah,
bunch of lighting. You'll notice the lighting in my office today looks more professional, right? And
correct.
but it's not. It's just a trick of how you use the lighting to your advantage. So
Definitely.
yeah, but yeah, man.
I have also two lights, but I also noticed that I need to dim them. So there's this a diffuser that is
Hmm.
better, because these lights, as you can see in my eyes, it creates shadows because of
Right,
my glasses.
right. You can see the little sphere on mine, all
Yeah,
the ring light. Yeah,
exactly. So what you do is I learned that you will have to put like a diffuser, which
yeah,
means like a
yeah.
soft
Like
light, a soft
the white
box.
sheet. Yeah,
Yes, so that it will sweeten the shadows.
yeah. I
Anyway,
can't wait to
so
see your setup, man. Once you get everything set up, send me a photo of your studio, and
definitely,
yeah, I'm dying to see it, man. Say hi to your wife for me. And
absolutely.
yeah, it was a great conversation, great episode, man. Are you
All
still
right,
on? Are we
sorry.
still live?
Yes. My studio, my speaker just went a little bit
Okay,
crazy.
I'll
Anyways,
see ya.
good to talk to you. Cheers, man. Have
Yeah,
a good
cheers,
one.
guys. Later, guys.
Bye.